you know, and I've grown into the person I am today, but boy, that was hard. So I dealt with some hard times, some worry that led to overthinking, that led to what if thinking, that then led to anxiety. Ultimately, the anxiety, if that hangs on too long, if anybody's watching this and you're dealing with it, you need to start to learn how to control your thoughts because it will lead to depression if you're not careful. And it did for me twice in my life. That's when I decided, listen, this is it. I can't live this way. So I really started digging deep, not into, I already had the sales business down pat. So then I needed to really dig down deep into the self-help, personal development, things like that. I actually bought a course that was for anxiety and depression, and that really helped me a ton. And then that led to me wanting to help other people many years later. Once I felt like I was, good, like, okay, I don't think I'm going to have another bout here. I think I'm good. I think my mindset's right. Then I decided, let's share this with the world.
Driven by purpose, fueled by passion, my words got power, my thoughts have action, motivation, stay gracious, that's greatness, be audacious, motivation, be audacious, innovation, be audacious, inspiration, be bold, motivation, be audacious.
Greetings and salutations. Welcome to the Audacious Living Podcast. It's always a pleasure to be here. I'm Audley Stephenson. And if this is your first time tuning in, welcome. And if you've been here and you've been riding with us for a while, thank you for continuing to spend a little part of your day with us. It's something I do not take lightly. This podcast exists for one reason, and that's to help you live your best audacious life ever. Now, I want you to think of life like a long road trip. You're behind the wheel. There are stretches where the road is smooth, and then there's moments when the weather turns, and sometimes you hit unexpected detours. What determines how far you go isn't the actual road itself, it's how prepared you are for the journey. Today's conversation is about packing the right tools for that journey. We're talking about the power of learning and committing to continuous growth and improvement. Why gratitude and affirmation aren't fluff, but really they're fuel. How the people you surround yourself can either elevate you or drain you. Facing adversity head on instead of avoiding it. And why mindset matters, because thoughts truly do become things. My guest today is Jason Wolbers. He's a longtime sales leader, mindset coach, and author of The Power of Positive Mindset. Jason has spent over 30 years building people, not just careers, and his work is rooted in lived experience, including navigating depression, pressure, and personal adversity. Jason's mission is simple and powerful. It's to help people strengthen their mental armor so they can show up better in their lives, their work, and their relationship. He's especially relevant to today's episode because he doesn't just talk about mindset, he lives it, teaches it, and builds daily habits around it. So if you're ever felt stuck, overwhelmed, or unsure how to push through a tough season, this conversation is for you. So without any further ado, let's jump into our chat with Jason Wolbers. Enjoy. Hey, Jason, thank you for joining me here today on the Audacious Living Podcast. I appreciate you for taking the time to be here, my friend.
I'm happy to be here with you.
Yeah, no, it's great to engage in conversations. And I've always said if we can, help people in some way, someone eavesdrops on our conversation today, Jason, and they walk away with some insight they can apply to their own lives. And I'm thrilled about that. And so thank you for being here to help potentially change someone's life. Much time is spent here on this podcast encouraging individuals to live their best audacious life, right? And it's recognition that, one of the analogies that we use often here is that, we're on a path in our life, right? It's a path, and it's our individual path has got its own set of obstacles, pitfalls, challenges, what have you. But it's our path nonetheless. And what's really beautiful about that is on the other side of it is kind of where all the greatness lies. We kind of got to go through that not so fun stuff to get there. And so that's kind of the premise. I think maybe as a starting point, I can get you to introduce yourself to our audience, describe a little the work that you do and what's got you to the point that you're at now.
All right, that sounds good. My name is Jason Wolbers, and I live in Ohio, United States. And I started off when I was 18 years old in the sales business. Okay. And I still do the same thing in a different role. Today, I'm 48, so I've been in the same business for 30 years. I started as a salesperson, just going out and selling products. We literally go into people's houses. That's how we sell. We sell a home safety product. So we go into their homes. and we encourage them to upgrade their fire protection, stuff like that. But that's my background. That's where I got my start. But during that entire time, during those 30 years, especially in my early years, I began to understand the importance of the always be learning concept.
Okay.
Like I figured it out pretty young, 18, 19, 20, that if I didn't constantly dig deeper, if I wasn't reading good books on sales, on the psychology of sales, on motivation, on inspiration, etc., then I wasn't going to be a high achiever. I was just going to be an average Joe. And quite frankly, I probably would have been out of the business. Instead, I'm up for a promotion next April to be a regional director for the company, which is the highest level you can achieve in our particular company. So I'm excited about that.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. But it's self-help, personal development. That's what I'm really all about. That's what I promote. And that's why I feel that we've been successful. My wife and I, her name's Tara, together in this business for so long. And then I think you know about this, but I wrote this book too, called The Power of a Positive Mindset, for that very reason. I wanted to share that positive message with the world.
I'd love to know, was there a turning point or a moment that nudged you in this direction of sort of, of mindset and being an author? Like, is there something specific that happened?
Absolutely. I think it was the early 2000s, certain things in your life you try to forget about, right? But in the early 2000s, and then again in the like 2000, I don't remember. I honestly don't remember the dates. I tried to forget, but I dealt with some pretty deep depression a couple of different times in my life.
Okay.
And mine would start with, I would start to worry and overthink about, because I've always been in commission. I've always been in a position where if I didn't produce or my team didn't produce, I wouldn't make any money. And now I'm in a position where if we don't produce, because I'm an owner, I could lose money, and I've grown into the person I am today, but boy, that was hard. So I dealt with some hard times, some worry that led to overthinking, that led to what if thinking, that then led to anxiety. Ultimately, the anxiety, if that hangs on too long, if anybody's watching this and you're dealing with it, you need to start to learn how to control your thoughts, because it will lead to depression if you're not careful. And it did for me twice in my life. That's when I decided, listen, this is it. I can't live this way. So I really started digging deep, I already had the sales business down pat. So then I needed to really dig down deep into the self-help, personal development, things like that. I actually bought a course that was for anxiety and depression, and that really helped me a ton. And then that led to me wanting to help other people many years later. Once I felt like I was, good, like, okay, I don't think I'm going to have another bout here. I think I'm good. I think my mindset's right. Then I decided, let's share this with the world.
That to me is probably the most beautiful part of the story. I mean, obviously, any sort of obstacle or pitfall or tragedy or whatever you have to overcome it's a wonderful, wonderful thing. It speaks to your resilience and your mindset and all sorts of beautiful things that we can use in our lives. But to take it a step further and go, okay, you know what? Here's what I learned, and let me reduce someone else's learning curve, if you will, by sharing my experiences, right? I think that's just so powerful. And honestly, to me, that's the best part of the story.
Yeah, and I feel like that's sort of what you're doing here, right? You're trying to help as many people as possible to think audaciously.
That's it. That's it.
I love that, by the way.
Yeah,
That's fantastic.
Thank you. Thank you. It was something that I'll tell you quickly, it was, during 2020, the pandemic, everyone was like, what's going on? And, everyone experienced some sort of loss. And I remember myself going, yeah, I lost something. But in the moment I didn't, Jason, so here's the thing. I didn't know in the moment what I was experiencing because I couldn't name it. I couldn't label it. And then as I literally remember, I was in a conversation with someone once and they said, yeah, ever since this, I'm like, oh, that's it. And then, my brain automatically goes, okay, problem solving. But okay, so what can I do? And I start. So I've got a daughter on the autism spectrum.
Okay.
And we oftentimes, with the language we use around her, oftentimes is if there's a behavior that we're doing, you can either extinguish it or you can replace it, right? So I'm like, okay, so replacing behaviors is part of my thinking. So I'm like, okay, I don't have this. What can I replace it with? And podcasting is something I've done many. My first podcast was 2008. So I'm like, it's not hard to fall back in that. That's easy for me. And so I did. But then I'm like, okay, so I know what I want to replace it with. What do I want the focus to be, right? And so I really thought long and hard about, okay, what sort of things mattered to me? What was important to me? I look back at sort of my past and my major accomplishments and my wins and what were those? And I realized that that thing, audacity, it exists in every part of my life. I didn't label it. I didn't know what it was. And
Right.
that's what started the journey. And now it's getting others to understand and recognize the impact, because it really is an awesome impact. And you take that step forward, having no idea where it's going, have no idea what the impact may be, but you take that step anyways. And that's really what I look to encourage in other people.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love it.
Yeah.
Everybody's got a story and everybody's got a reason. And I'm glad you started this with me by asking me kind of like what made you make that shift and want to write a book and want to help people and stuff. And because we all have something in our lives, and most of us have multiple things in our lives that have led us, to where we're at today. And a lot of times it is like a negative thing that happens that changes you and just makes you go, I don't want that anymore.
Absolutely. And that's why when I talked about the top of that path that we're on, it's so important that we go through those challenges and those sucky stuff and the things that we don't like, because of what it can do on the other side. We just got to get to the other side. I have real quickly, I'm doing all the talking here, but I want to share, I have something that I developed called the BOLD framework. You might see it over my shoulder there. And BOLD is action, BOLD is action acronym, BOLD. And the B in that framework stands for better than yesterday. And so it's really speaking to constant improvement. Like, so yes, you climb that really big mountain today. What are you going to do tomorrow? Right. So, what's next? And that really the approach there. The O, which is what we're talking about here, is stands for outlast adversity, right? Because on the other side is where the greatness lies. So you got to keep pushing through, get to the other side. The L is saying live your truth, which is really promoting authenticity. That path that I talked about earlier, it's our path. I can't be on your path, Jason, because it's not meant for me. It's meant for you.
Right.
So it's very important we stay on our path. And then the last letter, D, is disrupt the norm. And sometimes that path we take is it's off the beaten path, if you will, right? Like, absolutely. You think of, I always use the analogy of the Wright brothers, like, when they're trying to build a plane and how to fly. I could just imagine the number of people have said, you're crazy. Flying is for the birds. What are you doing? But they did it anyways, and now flying is a big part of our existence. And so, and that really will get you to live your best audacious life if you follow that framework. But the O is the outlast adversity, what would trigger that. And I really want to maybe if you could identify, because look, things get hard for people, right? Things get hard, and I'd love to if you could identify one or two or three quick things that people can do to help them get through those difficult periods.
Yeah, definitely. One of the things that I teach in my book, I mentioned it several times. And my book, by the way, is written in a 90-day consumption. It was written to be consumed over 90 days. And in the introduction, I explain that to people. I really recommend reading it in 90-day increments. And that in and of itself is one answer to your question. Consuming things on a regular basis that are good for your mind. It's like if you are putting garbage in and you're never putting anything else in your mind except for garbage. And let's be honest, if we're following the world, there's a lot of garbage going into our heads, even when we don't even realize it. You and I are positive people, but we're getting it every time we turn on the TV, every time the radio's on. You're with certain people, right? We know we all have people in our lives that like to talk about other people and they're negative and all this. You have to get good. We have to get good at pouring in the positivity intentionally. And that's why I wrote my book as a 90-day challenge, if you will. Day 1, day 2, all the way to day 90. And there's 90 lessons in this book. One of them will answer your question. And I call it changing the channel. Now, I don't know if I invented this or if I learned it 20 years ago and just remembered it. Okay. But I can't remember a source, so I'm owning it. All right. So it's in my book a few times. I talk about it a lot with my sales team and when I'm on podcasts and stuff like that. But changing the channel, all it means is, so let's just say we walk into our living room and our niece, nephew, whoever it might be, they're watching something that really they shouldn't be. Like you're listening in and all of a sudden the F word comes out, right? And you're like, wait a minute, that's my 8-year-old niece or my son or whoever, right?
Yep.
What would we do?
Change the channel.
Change the channel. The problem with our minds is too many times we leave it on that channel and we continue watching it, even though it has nothing to give. So I have learned, and I use it all the time, when a negative thought enters, and we will not catch all of them. You know that, and I know that. You're not going to catch them all. Sometimes you're just going to think negative. When you catch yourself, though, and you're like, whoa, that's a defeating thought, just change it to something else, or just eliminate it and say, boom, whatever you got to do, a pattern interrupt, turn the radio on, whatever you can do to change the channel in your mind. That's number one.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Well, I already gave you number one was pouring into yourself, right?
Yep.
And number two is changing the channel. To give you a third one, be careful who you associate with. That's in the book too. Be careful who you associate with. It was Jim Rohn that used to say all the time, we become just like the 5 people we hang around the most.
Yeah.
It's the truth. You've seen it in your life. I've seen it in my life, right? You do start to become a lot like the people that you're around the most. And my wife and I have noticed it with just each other. If she's going through a down phase in her life, I start to feel down because I'm around her all the time. Vice versa. When I was going through my struggles, she started feeling down, right? And now with your spouse, you deal with it and you work through things, right?
Sure.
But with certain relationships, at a certain point, it is okay. Maybe I wouldn't say necessarily you have to eliminate them from your life, but if they're one of the people you're hanging around the most, you might want to slow that down a bit and be careful who you're associated with. And then the other thing is, and I'll finish this thought with this. The first thing you want to do, you don't want to eliminate them. You want to try to rub off on them first. You want to try to help them. But if it's not working, I don't eliminate people usually because that's just not my nature, but I will slow down. I will maybe not text them to go out to eat Friday night quite as often.
Sure.
You feel me on that one?
Absolutely.
Okay.
You gotta be very selective what you do, right?
Yes, sir.
And I think a big part of that is being mindful of the choices that you make. I do like the fact that you acknowledge that we're not going to stop at all. Things are going to filter their way through. But it's important that we fortify ourselves so when they do get through the webbing of the net or whatever, and they filter out, we can, and you can just knock that off and keep going on your merry way, right? And that's so really fortifying yourself, I think, is a big piece of that too.
Yeah, absolutely. You got to have that armor. You got to have that built-in armor in your brain, and no one else can put that there except for you.
Got you.
And it's only done through studying, learning. Like I literally learn something new every day. I'm always reading 2 to 3 books at a time.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Always.
Yep. Feeding your mind. That's awesome.
Yes, sir. Yep.
I'd love to kind of get maybe your definition of a positive mindset. And I ask that because when you think of things like resilience, optimism, gratitude, those things all fit into what a positive mindset is. And so is it sort of a combination of those things, or is there independent sort of definition that you'd use? Yeah,
well, according to my own writing, I've got 90 paths to get there.
Okay. All right, then. There we go.
No, don't get me wrong, though. You know how it is when you're writing a book over 90 days and you're going to have some repetition, and they're like changing the channels in there several times. I would say developing a positive mindset, it is a lot of things put together. But the first thing I think we need to work on, most people have heard of the book, The Power of Positive Thinking by Norman Vincent Peale, right? And a lot of people probably haven't heard of this one, but there was a program when I was 18 years old. A friend of my dad's gave me this, and this will date me. Cassette tape. Literally, they were cassette tapes. There was like 8 of them. And it was this series, and it was called The Strangest Secret by Earl Nightingale. And Earl was a pretty big deal back in the day. Yeah. And I learned a lot from that series. I was so thankful that friend of my dad's gave that to me. This is probably the key to this would be my definition of a positive mindset. It's someone that understands that their thoughts, a mindset that's positive, understands that thoughts become things.
Yes.
If I had to give it to you in 1 or like 3 words, thoughts become things. If we control our thoughts, naturally we're going to err toward the gratitude you mentioned. Right? If we control our thoughts, naturally, we're going to be careful who we hang around and what we watch on TV and which YouTube videos and which podcasts we listen to. We're going to listen to podcasts like yours instead of one on maybe true crime that might make us feel anxious if we're an anxious person. You see, I'm not against any type of podcast. I love them. I think they're all wonderful. But I gear toward your style because, I want to pour that stuff into my head. And by the way, I do like the true crime too. I watch Dateline all the time.
There's always space for it.
Yeah, I'm not dissing that kind of stuff. But if somebody has an anxiety problem at the moment, you got to control. You got to control what you put in your head. Yeah. You shouldn't be watching that because that's only going to make you anxious. You see what I'm saying? So people that understand that thoughts become things, And then it really opens up life. It opens up the possibility for you to allow your mind to accept all the changes that are going to need to happen, because a lot of changes have to happen for most people if they want to get that positive armor that you clearly have.
Yep.
And I feel like I do as well. I can just tell from meeting you, you've got it. You got that going on, but you probably poured into it just like I did. You've probably got years and years of working hard on yourself.
Well, it's that, I think it's a combination of a bunch of things. I think for me, are there some natural aspects of this that are part of me? Yeah. Something sure that's part of it. It's like it's in the genes, as they say, right? Like, so there's some of that.
Me too.
And have there been sort of life experiences that have sort of helped me understand things? Yeah, for sure. My upbringing, absolutely. I was raised in a household of love and positivity, even when things, it was a single parent household. That presents its own set of challenges. I didn't know my father. I had no idea who my father was until I was like 25. Sure. Okay. All these sorts of, but those things don't define who I want to be in life, right? Or what I want to be. In fact, I remember and oftentimes I'm going through a book writing process right now, and there's a portion I'm talking about my relationship with my father, my parents split up when I was like 6 months old, so I had no recollection of him, and then I met him, like I said, I was like 25, and I was a father myself by this point, and I've said many times over that I learned, and so I should say, so when I met him, he came kind of looking for me, kind of thing, like I gotta find my long lost son. And I've said many times, I said to him that I've learned so much of being a father and a man, both in his absence and presence. And I'm thankful for both of them, right? I learned lessons in both, right? And so, but could I have said, hey, you suck, where were you my whole life? I got nothing. Sure, I could have said that, right? But I think I would have missed out on the other part of the lesson I was meant to learn, right? And so it really, at the end of the day, I truly, and maybe get your take on this, and I think I probably know where you're going to go with it, but I truly believe that the positive attitude that we have always comes down to the choice.
It does. A good friend of mine, Nick Hutchison, he started Book Thinkers. I don't know if you've ever heard of Nick.
Yeah. I had Nick on this podcast before. He wrote a book himself as a, Nick, that's right.
He's awesome. But Nick helped me to understand that I was on his podcast, and he asked me, do you think you got positive by nurture or by nature? Because what we were just discussing with your situation is nature too, right? And I got it by natural. You get some things naturally. You mentioned it. But then the nurture, by the way, God bless all the single parents out there, right? Like your mama. Taking care of you and raising you right. That should be said, right? After what you just said, I'm like, God bless your mama. She was obviously really, really a good mom, and that's fantastic.
Yeah.
And I'm thankful for your mom. I can tell you that much.
Yeah, appreciate it.
But no, nurture and nature. And I think that's another thing that goes back to the other question you asked me about defining mindset, positive mindset. There's got to be some nature for sure. I mean, some people they just don't necessarily have that. But if you don't, then you really have to nurture yourself. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If you don't get it naturally, I think you probably, just from me, I can tell you got a naturally upbeat personality, and I do too. Mm-hmm. But guys like us, sometimes we're the easiest ones to take a downhill spiral too. It happens.
Yeah. I actually, it's actually to the point, because I've been doing it for so long, I actually take pride in showing up this way every day. Every opportunity. I'm the guy walking down the street and I see someone else smile and say, hey, how's it going? And keep it moving, or whatever. Yes. Someone cuts me off, like, hey, I'll smile, whatever, driving. It's something. And okay, but I also want to say, it's not that I don't get upset. It's not that I don't get angry. It's not. In fact, there's an analogy that I use to describe life, and it's the hills and valleys of life, right? So on the top of the hill, life is wonderful. Things are great. There's happiness, there's joy, there's satisfaction. But as we know, life is a continuum. So as you go along, you're going to go down that valley, and that's what's yucky and not nice and unpleasant, and the negativity exists.
Yeah.
I'm not saying I don't go in the valley. I just don't stay in the valley.
I'm the same exact way. Yep. And I like what you're talking about with when you're going around, you're happy and you're waving to people and you're being nice. My son and daughter, they both worked in food industry for a while when they were younger. And my son in particular would work the drive-thru at McDonald's once in a while. And when he told me after working there for a while, he goes, "You are a unique person." And I'm like, "What do you mean?" He's like, "Most people when they go through the drive-through at McDonald's are like not very nice. They don't seem happy. They don't say nice things to the people." And I always do, just like you said. I do. I'm always thankful for the person who takes the money. I always tell them thank you very much. And then when I get my food, I smile at them. And if they do a good enough job, there's been a lot of times where I'll literally, if it's close to my office, I'll come back to my office, grab one of my books, sign it, and take it back to them. I'm not kidding you. But I think that's a little bit in our nature, the friendliness
Yeah.
and things like that. Not
Yeah.
everybody's an extrovert, but yeah, I don't know where I was going with that, but wherever I was going, it was good.
Yeah.
It was
It's
positive.
funny. It's funny for your son because my son's 19 and he just laughs at me because it's similar sort of reaction. And so if we're driving and I stop at a red light and I make eye contact with someone, he's rolling his eyes because he knows
He
I'm
knows
rolling my
something's
window
coming.
down. Hey, what's up? And hey, what's going on? And next thing you know, I'm getting invited to a barbecue or something strange or whatever. And he's like, "Oh, here we go again." So
That's
but yeah,
hilarious.
but what's really what I find really rewarding and valuable is I watch how my kids I have 3 children, and I watch how they interact with the world and society and even how they're perceived. Or like the other day, my son was saying something to someone, and they said to him, "Yeah, you're a really positive person, right?" And I'm going, "Wow, that's great. So they think you're positive, right?" And that comes from the examples that he's been set by
Yes.
me. And I'll even take it a step further is, because I didn't have my father active in my life at the age of 19, I wanted to make sure I was engaged and present in a way that I didn't have. Well, that's a lesson I learned from my father's absence. So it follows that pattern, you know what I'm saying, or you learn from the experiences that you have. And so, what we pass down to our children for me is just, it's phenomenal.
It
It
is.
really is.
In your perspective is what you were just talking about. Basically, that's huge. Like your perspective was, it's all about how you perceive things, and you decided to take your dad's absence and use it as a positive. But then when he wanted to come into your life, you also accepted that and
Sure.
said, "Hey,
Sure.
I'm going to use this as a positive." There's people that wouldn't do that, and I
Yeah.
hope they're listening, because what you're saying is a very important message to people. Be forgiveness too sometimes. Now I
Yeah.
realize that has to be your choice. Like at
Of course
25
it does.
years
Yeah.
old, you had every right to never forgive. I'm not saying you should have,
Sure.
but I like that you did. I like the fact that you did.
So thank you for that. You know what? It actually is interesting is at no point ever, and in fact, this is the first time I'm actually saying this out loud. I never thought about this. At no point did I have to feel I needed to forgive because I wasn't angry. Like there was like the way I see it, the fact that he came back in my life, and all the other thing I'll tell you is at the time that he came back, he was very sick, and then he passed away 3 years later. So we had a short window together. But the fact that he came back into my life and only got 3 years, that was his loss, not mine.
That's so true.
Right? I didn't lose out. He did.
Right.
And so, because again, I was nurtured in love. I had a wonderful mother that did so much. I never
Yep.
felt like I was longing for anything or I missed out on anything. I was happy, and so
That's great.
yeah, I had no reason to offer forgiveness because I wasn't upset.
That's amazing.
So
Once again, your mama did a great job. I'll tell you
yeah,
that
she,
much.
she
Holy
did. She
smokes.
did. Quite proud of her.
And one
Quite proud of
parent
her.
has to act as two. I mean, that's big. And there's a lot of people out there doing that right now. And there's
Yeah.
probably a lot of people listening to
Yeah.
us right now that are doing that.
So let's take this and talk about negative emotions, right? So in my example, I give I wasn't negative, I didn't have them, and I didn't harbor it, so it wasn't a problem for me. But that's not always the case, and people are going to experience negative emotions. So when they come knocking on your doorstep and say, "I'm here," what do we do with them?
Well, that's a good question. And in when I decided to start Jason Wolbers Motivation, which is basically the brand I use. But if anybody wants to find me, by the way, that's where you'd find me on social media, all of them, just Jason Wolbers Motivation. But when I started that, I was a lot like you too. You mentioned COVID earlier. That's when I really ramped up all that stuff when I had the downtime. I started ramping up. I'm like, okay, now I've got this time that I can actually pour into this and get something started. And I did. That's not when I wrote the book, though. I wrote the book after COVID. I started writing the book in 2022,
Yep.
finished in 23. But when when negative people come into our lives, or when somebody comes to you with something that's not so positive, or when you have it happen to yourself, once again, it's just, to me, it's about what I'm going to try to do with that person. If it's not me, if it's me, I'm just going to build up the armor and do the things, the healthy and positive habits that I already have, that will help me to free my mind of the negativity. But if it's somebody else, I'm just going to slowly but surely teach them one principle at a time that worked for me, based on what they're saying to me.
Right.
Is just, if you are a positive person and you have the positive armor, I think it is our job to try to help those other people. But at the same time, being very careful, because some people will suck the life out of you.
They will.
You can't allow that either, because we don't want them to deflate our balloons so far that we can't help ourselves anymore. So I'd say in limited doses, that's what I will do. And I've worked with hundreds of salespeople over the years.
Yep.
Some of them are extremely negative.
Sure.
At a certain point, they don't work here anymore.
Got it.
They either develop a mindset that's better, or they're going to have to go work another job, because sales is, your attitude's the most important thing you have. And I preach it all the time. So that's what I was talking about earlier too, with association. You can't be afraid that doesn't mean that I won't, if I see that person at Target tomorrow, that doesn't mean I'm not going to give them a hug and love on them and say, hey man, sure, I miss you. It doesn't mean I don't like them. It just means that I can't have that person associating with the rest of my sales team all the time.
That's right.
But we're going to crash and burn. So I would say help them in little bits, and hopefully it takes. That's because most people, they can't comprehend everything you know about positivity, everything I know about it, all in one sitting. We can't sit them down for 2 hours and lecture them on it.
No.
They'll just leave and never want to talk again about it. So
yeah. It's a lifetime of learning. It really truly is.
Yes. And we have to tell them that in the beginning. Look, I'm going to give you a little bit to go on here. And I might give them my book, or I might give them another book to get them started too, and just hope that they read it. It.
So much later in life, I've learned or heard of this thing called toxic positivity, which is very different than our regular healthy positivity that we're talking about. I wonder if your thoughts on toxic positivity, make that distinction for our listeners, and how do you avoid that?
Well, I've heard a little bit about it too. I think I've heard some people on podcasts mention it. I think what they're talking about, I'm not super familiar with it, but I think what they're talking about is false positivity, where, like if you're doing a positive affirmation that says, I love my life, but you hate your life.
Right.
I mean, you got to start somewhere else. You can't start with, I love my life, everything about my life is perfect, or I'm a millionaire, when you got negative $336 in your checking account this morning. You're not a millionaire, and your mind cannot believe that yet. You see what I'm saying? You can't believe that. So the positivity that you bring into your life has to be in increments. And I think that's where positivity becomes toxic. If somebody tries to go from 0 to hero overnight with it, positive affirmations are a great example, because a person that doesn't love their life should say, my life is getting better every single day, and I'm doing whatever I can. I'm doing one new thing each day to make sure my life gets better. That should be their affirmation, not my affirmation. Every single day I can say I love my life, because I made a decision a long time ago. I don't care what happens. I love my life. And Thanksgiving Day 2022, I lost my older brother. He died of a massive heart attack at 48 years old. The next day I woke up and I still loved my life. I hated my circumstance. I hated the fact that I was never going to see my brother again, but I loved my life. I still loved my life. And that's how my brother would want me to feel. He didn't want us to quit living. But I think toxic positivity is just, it's almost like those preachers that, that they feel like they're prosperity preaching only, and they're never really giving you any word. I'm not trying to make this religious, just so you know, but it's a good example. A lot of people look down upon those preachers just because it's not, life isn't always going to be that way. It's not always, like you mentioned it earlier, just because we have positive armor doesn't mean we're not going to have ups and downs. I think when the toxic positivity comes in, when people are trying to do too much too soon, or they're preaching that it's always good all the time, no matter what. It's not. Life sucks sometimes. My life sucks sometimes. I had a bad day yesterday because my back was hurting. I just had a rough day. Now, I ended up having a good day at the end of it, but it
Sure.
was rough.
Yep.
It was rough.
Yep. Yep.
And,
It, it,
you just get through it.
yep. I kind of equate it to, you're going to work, you're facing morning rush hour, and someone cuts you off, right? And that's how your day starts, right?
Yes.
Well, you got some choice how long you choose to hold on to that emotion. But I can tell you, if at 5 o'clock the end of the workday, you're still talking what happened at 8 a.m. that morning, there's a problem.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's
not, and the problem isn't because you got cut off. It's much bigger than that. Right. And so it's really what you choose to hold on to. Wondering, and I'll sort of give you a couple of things that I do, but wondering your thoughts like around how things you do to sustain positivity. So, for example, there's two things that I almost always do.
Okay.
When I'm going through a difficult or challenging time, something doesn't go right at work, broken relationship, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I fall back into the things that I enjoy. And so, for example, I enjoy podcasting. I enjoy having these conversations, and because that puts me in a positive space. And so it's funny because I find that if I break up with a girlfriend, man, I pump out like 100 episodes right, of all kinds of positive stuff because I'm just in that frame of mind, and it keeps that keeps that space. The other thing that I do that I find really helpful is I very much subscribe to the theory of celebrating the wins, right? And so I keep record and I as best as I can and keep stock of the accomplishments. And that sort of falls into gratitude as well, right? Because I'm like, okay, I've done this. Man, I did that. So it's almost like I did these 5 things. Why can't I do the 6th one? Like the other 5, I did no problem, right? And those are some of the things that kind of do. What are your thoughts? Are there things that you sort of employ that help you stay in a positive space?
Absolutely. One of the things that I can tell you for sure that came to my mind is my wife's sister Stacy and her husband Craig Schrader. They live in Iowa City, Iowa, and back in 2015. They lost their oldest son, Austin, to cancer. He died at 15 years old. He suffered for a little over a year. It seemed like if a bad thing could happen to that poor child, they're not like it just every treatment failed. It was like nothing was really taking yet. It was a 90% survival rate when he was first diagnosed. It was very positive at first, but this is the point. They developed the mantra, and you probably heard of this mantra before: win the day.
Yeah.
Okay. And he bought into it. Even at his sickest moments. I mean, he had some really hard days in that little over a year that he lived with cancer. He bought into it. He believed what his mom and dad were telling him. And at the end of every day, they would talk about it and they'd come up with one positive thing that happened that day. And his name was Austin, by the way, Austin Flash Schrader. So, but I always tell myself if I'm having a bad day, if Austin could find one thing on his worst day, he still found things, then I can. And that's in the book too. It's day 22 because his number in sports was 22. So we love that number in our family. But winning the day, finding a win in every single day is big. And then I like what you said because I write about it in the book too. You got to have fun. So many people have eliminated fun from their lives. They've eliminated leisure. They work all the time. There's so many workaholics in modern society. There really are. And then there's the other side too, where people are just flat out lazy and don't want to do anything. But I feel like there's got to be a happy medium. And balance probably is never really truly gonna happen. But you can at least be 100% when you're at work. Be 100% when you're at that concert with your family. Be 100% when you're at your kid's sporting event. Be present. That's another thing. Be present. I try to be present whenever I'm anywhere.
I love it. Man, Jason, I really sort of appreciate this. What's next for you? I mean, any new books or talks? What do you got lined up? Anything?
Yes. We got picked up by a New York City publishing house called Morgan James Publishing for the first book, The Power of a Positive Mindset. And that's available anywhere books are sold, by the way. Anywhere books are sold, people can get that book. But I just finished writing my second book.
Okay.
It's done now. I talked to David Hancock at Morgan James yesterday. I had a Zoom with him, and they're going to take a look at it and see if maybe they want to take that one as well. We'll see how that goes. But that one's on positive habits, the power of positive habits.
Okay.
And that one's a 65-day journey instead of 90. But I wrote a little bit longer messages. And that one's good too, because that's another thing that I think a lot of people need is a little nudge every day. Hey, develop a new habit. So I wrote that one about the different habits that have helped shape my life and many of my friends, family, and some celebrities are in there, different stories to help make the point. But other than that, what's for me too is taking that region with the company and working to continue to help develop the people within our organization and help them to be the best people that they can possibly be also. And then to continue to meet more people like you, get out there more and put my face out there and try to spread the message. And I really appreciate you letting me on today.
Yeah, no, I've loved everything about our conversation. So you almost have like two hats that you're wearing, right? Between these, it's like two separate careers going on at the same time. How do you, and look, I'm guilty of the same, but I'm curious, how do you find the time to make it all work?
Well, I'll tell you, it's a little easier now that my kids are older. My daughter's a nurse at a hospital now. It's easier when your kids get older. So if people are trying to do that when their kids are little, give yourself some grace and, maybe just try to focus on one thing for a while. But I do it in my free time. That's the way I make it work. Gotcha. Like the hours, and this is an important message for people that really want to make a difference in the world. I'm going to have to work full time at my main thing, no matter what, right? So I have to use some of the leisure time, some of the time that most people spend watching Netflix and stuff. That's when I do my writing. That's when I'm making videos. That's when I'm trying to encourage the public. But I also enjoy doing it, just like you enjoy doing the podcast. So it's like it's a labor of love.
You don't feel like you're working.
No, it is. Yes, it is my leisure thing to do. And I still watch Netflix, and I still watch Hulu, and I still watch baseball games, football games, every sport you can imagine. I make time for all that stuff, but I do it in my spare time. That's the key for me. It's not my full-time thing. It's a part-time thing. And the company I work with, they know that and they respect that. They know that I'm not using my daily time to do things like that.
Got you. Quick fun thing I want to do. It's not rapid fire questions, believe me, but I'm just curious if I were to say one word to describe your mindset today. What would you say?
One word? Whew. Armor. It's my armor. That's what it is for the world.
Fortifies you.
I like that you said fortify earlier. That was great. Yes, it fortifies me. That's what it does.
You said you just wrote a book on positive habit. What's your favorite mindset habit?
My favorite well, have you ever read the book or at least heard of Hal Elrod, The Miracle Morning?
I haven't. I'm familiar with the author, but I haven't read that book.
Okay, yeah, check it. Just check the book out. It's really popular. He sold millions of copies. But morning habits to me, for me at least, everybody's different. But for me, positive morning habits, and I'll give you 3. I wake up every morning with gratitude, no matter what. My eyes open and I instantly thank God for a few things. Like, thank you for this podcast I'm going to be on today. Thank you for my business. Thank you for my wife, whatever it might be. I constantly am doing that. Then I do positive affirmations in the morning. I always do positive affirmations. I write in a gratitude journal too. That goes along with gratitude though. And then the third thing that I do every single day, no matter what, while I'm brushing my teeth and getting ready, I usually shower the night before because I exercise in the evening. So I shower the night before. I'm already ready. I just have to brush my teeth, get dressed and stuff. And comb this beautiful hair, What I do then is I listen to a book. That's how you can read 2 books at the same time. You listen to one on Audible and you actually read the other one. And so I listen to a book every single morning because I'm at least getting 10 minutes then of some sort of content, even if I don't find the time the rest of the day. So I would say those 3 morning habits: having gratitude, praying, thanking God, meditation, whatever you do with that regard. And then positive affirmations, that's 2. And 3 would be the listening to an audible instead of music. At nighttime when I'm taking that shower, buddy, you better believe half the time I'm listening to some music,
Sure.
All right. That's it.
One last question here. If you're going to give quick advice to someone starting a difficult new project, what's the one-liner of advice you give to them?
Learn more about it. Don't go into something completely blind. Always be learning. And the cool thing is with like the YouTube and, TikTok, you name it, man.
It's all there.
Just type in the search what you want to learn and Google and all the search engines. Just learn a little bit more because knowledge is power. And as long as you have a little bit of knowledge, go ahead then and feel confident to get started.
My mother's 83 years old, and she's discovered YouTube, and she turns there for everything. It's hilarious, actually.
That is great.
It's
Smart.
it's fun to watch. She just goes, I'll look on YouTube and find it. Oh, okay.
Great.
Thanks.
It's a great resource. I mean, she's smart. That's a good resource.
Yeah. That's real. Listen, Jason, like I said, this has been awesome. For listeners who want to connect with you directly, learn more about your work, or get a copy of The Power of the Positive Mindset, where can we send them?
Yeah, I would just send them to either my website, jasonwolbersmotivation.com, or they can go to any of the social medias. I'm more active on like TikTok, Facebook, because I'm 48, right? I still use Facebook. I do a lot on Facebook. So if they really want to get some positive juices going every day, go follow me at Jason Wolbers Motivation on Facebook. Instagram, same thing. I'm there pretty much every day. The typical social medias, but again, you got to find me under Jason Wolbers Motivation. And the book itself, again, it's available everywhere books are sold. The Power of a Positive Mindset. I'd love to hear people's feedback on the book. So also give the book a good Google review, Goodreads review if you read it and you like it, and give it an Amazon review and everywhere else where you can do a review. It helps us. So thanks again for having me on. Yeah,
this is great. And what we'll do is make sure that all the appropriate links are in the contact details of the show notes, right? That's all there for you. And I will encourage listeners to check out the book and leave a review for sure. This has been great. Jason, listen, congratulations on the book. Congratulations on the second book. I think it's phenomenal. I love the work that you're doing. I love what you're putting out there in the universe. And I say that from a standpoint of appreciation for someone who recognizes the value of the work that you're doing. So certainly keep it up. And thanks again for being a guest on the Audacious Living Podcast.
Thank you. We appreciate what you're doing too. Keep it going.
For sure. Well, only if you do too. Okay, that's a deal?
I will.
Cool. Back, we are here on the podcast. So much thanks and appreciation goes out to Jason for being here. There was so much value in what he had to share, and it had to pull off one main takeaway. It had to be this: you don't build a strong mindset in the middle of a storm. You build it before the storm ever arrives. What I loved most about this conversation with Jason was how practical and grounded it was. No hype, no pretending. Life is perfect. Just real talk about building habits that fortify you. Jason reminded us that positivity isn't about ignoring pain. It's about choosing what you feed your mind when pain shows up. Learning daily, practicing gratitude, being intentional about who you associate with, and understanding that adversity isn't a stop sign, it's a training ground. That ties directly into audacious living, because audacity isn't reckless confidence, it's earned confidence. It's knowing you've done the inner work so you can keep moving forward even when things get hard. If today's episode resonated with you in any way, I encourage you to connect with Jason directly. You'll find all his links in the details and the show notes below, as well as a link to his book for the positive mindset. At the time of this recording, Jason also shared that he's completing a second book focused on positive habits, and we'll keep you posted how that journey continues. And I'm telling you, it was great chatting with him, and he's definitely a guy that's worth connecting with. He's got lots of positivity to share. Now, as we close out, I want to bring it back to that road trip analogy again. You don't control every mile, you don't control the weather, but you do control how prepared you are to keep going. Learning strengthens your engine, gratitude keeps your fuel tank full, healthy relationships help you stay on course, and the mindset is a steering wheel. That's how you live life audaciously. If you found value in today's episode, please take a moment to like, follow, subscribe, or share this podcast. It's the simplest way you can help this message reach someone who might need it right now. Until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and keep choosing to live life audaciously.
Driven by purpose, fueled by passion, my words got power, my thoughts have action, motivation, stay gracious,